Hey, what's going on, WBSE and Whiskey Network? Today, we're going to talk to a couple of really kick-ass store owners, Justin Jarvis and George Fortis. They're both local to Baltimore area. And the topic of conversation is going to be how to become a good customer, the do's and don'ts of getting those precious allocated bottles. The fall is coming up, and we all know what comes in the fall time. So first off, I'd like to welcome George Fortis of Drug City Liquors and Justin Jarvis of how you fellows doing?
Good, Chad. How are you? Thanks for having us on.
Awesome.
Chad, pleasure as always. Thanks for having us on tonight.
So I want to just get right into my very first question. Do you have any of that Pappy?
10K stacks. I got it all.
All right. All right. So obviously we're connected. We've hung out. I frequent both of your stores. I'm going to have to take this microphone as I'm getting crazy feedback again. But anyway, so to become a good customer, it really takes a lot on social media. On social media, you see a lot of people that where they're getting out from. They're talking about store owner. How do you feel about those random people coming into the store and trying to get the product?
Chad, I couldn't hear the last half of what you said. I don't know if it's me or Justin. Could you hear?
I could hear a little bit, but the last half.
Okay. With social media, people discuss constantly where they're finding certain bottles, certain releases. They're discussing building relationships. And I've heard this over the last several years running WBSE. How important is that to you guys to develop a relationship with your customers to be able to let them procure, just say, a Pappy 15 or some BTAC or whatnot?
George, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. It's part of the puzzle. So every store has a different way of handling their allocated items. And that matters to different degrees, depending where you are. To me, it's pretty important. I really believe that those Pappy 15s and BTACs are, I like to use Justin's word, thank you bottles. So I like to get those out to my customers as a thank you for being a good customer throughout the year. And we have ways of deciding and figuring out who our good customers are. But when you're in front of me and you're interacting with me and we're having conversation and we're sharing samples, then it's definitely helpful when the time comes to dole those bottles out. So I think it's very valuable, and it's not absolutely necessary, but it helps.
Well said. To piggyback off that, I think it's all of that plus some. If I have a relationship with someone, it's gonna make me more inclined to possibly offer them something, especially if I think they're gonna flip the bottle or resell the bottle. Today it's really tough when, if you don't know somebody, to build that relationship is probably the most important thing, down the road. Like George said, I use them as a thank you bottle. Thanks for your support throughout the year, and so forth. But to be honest with Chad, I think it's everything. I don't offer bottles if I have any inclination that they're going to flip it.
Okay.
It's just one of my rules. I don't do that. If there's any inclination or any doubt in my head that they're going to flip it, I'm not going to offer them a thank you bottle. Again, it's a thank you bottle for their support, but it's also, it's something that, you want them to enjoy it. It's stuff that is not easy to find. And the whiskey is great. You know, there's a lot of those, you know, unicorn bottles out there, but they're just really, really hard to find.
So kind of going on from that, how can you generally tell when somebody's interested in you and your store and to support you in your store versus somebody just looking for the prize?
So,
Well, oh, go ahead.
oh, so, you know, there's a couple ways. Obviously, you know, the biggest, you kind of nailed it on the head. The biggest way is just, you know, building that relationship. You know, it's and it's not about necessarily bringing samples in and, you know, showing off your collection or anything. Realistically, it's more just, you know, really kind of just knowing that person and knowing they do open the bottles. And I never make anybody open a bottle in front of me, but there's a lot to be said if they, you know, if they should maybe show me a video. Hey, I just opened the bottle with my dad on Christmas. You know, little things like that do go a long way. It's just something I take really seriously, and I know George does too. It's very hard for us to get these bottles. It is not easy. You know, just like we use them as thank you bottles, distributors do kind of the same thing. They do, hey, thanks for your business. You know, you grew last year. We're going to maybe add a bottle here or there. But in no means do we get extra cases of this type of stuff. I try and spread it out as much as I can too. So the same person doesn't just continue to get that unicorn bottle. So for instance, if somebody got a Pappy 15 last year, maybe this year they might get a Pappy 10, or maybe they might get a Weller Foolproof. You know, the same unicorn bottles don't just go to the same people. And that's, you know, I think everybody respects that.
George?
Yeah, you know, I agree. You know, it's so much nicer when you know that the person that you're selling the bottle to truly appreciates it and is downright excited about it, and not planning just to sell it. You know, we can't stop them from doing whatever they plan on doing, but it definitely is so much nicer when you give them that bottle and they're genuinely excited to get it, and you know it's going to be shared with their friends. You know, it's just a wonderful thing.
No, that's
Well
a great
said.
thing.
Well said.
So I have a ton of questions sitting in front of me for you guys. I mean, I have a ton. So I'm probably going to be jumping back and forth. Justin said something about the distributors. And both of you could answer on this or however you guys want to do it. And a lot of people really don't understand what kind of relationship and what do you need to do as a store to get some of these bottles. And I know it's you have to sell a certain amount of this or you got to buy a certain amount of that, it seems like. Can you explain to the newer people about what it actually takes for the store owner to acquire, say, a Pappy 15?
It's quite a bit. You know, when I first got into it, I didn't understand how it worked at all. But essentially, you have to support their core brands, and I understand it. It just like we want to support our good customers. They want us to support their special brands. So specifically, let's say Sazerac. You know, they want you to be selling and be a big supporter of Fireball, of Platinum. They don't force you to do it, but if you do and you work with them on getting different placements and different products in and maybe a big display here and there, they do you know, remember that and come around, you know, come when it comes to allocation time, you know, hopefully we'll take care of you in a very fair manner. You know, so it's not you better do this. It's like, well, if you do this, then we'll do this.
Well,
One hand washes the other, so to speak.
Yes.
well
There's no
said.
pressure, but it's kind of the way it works.
Yeah, well said. I think the big thing is where I think the consumer has a little bit of a misconception. You know, I get this all the time. It's like, well, what if you bring in 100 cases of Platinum? You know, is that going to get you an extra 23? And it doesn't. You know, they want long-term growth. They want products that are going to continue to work. Just like for a business standpoint, I don't want to just bring in a bunch of, garbage that's not going to sell just to get one more bottle. It's just not a business. It doesn't make sense business wise. So what I really look for is we'll try out a product. If it works, we'll continue with it. If it doesn't, we'll try something else. But it's really trying to find those products that work for the long haul to where I don't feel like I'm pushing, these other products like, hey guys, like, I brought this in to try and help get this. I never, ever want to do that. It's not fair to the consumer, just like it's not fair to us. And I think if you have a good relationship with your distributor, which I know George does and I do, it goes a long way of, you scratch his back, I'll scratch your back. We're both in it for the long term.
Okay. So going back to the customer, something I see in whiskey, bourbon, scotch, and enthusiast is a lot of new people. There's so many new people just now getting into whiskey, who's been in it for a short period of time. When a person that's clearly a little green comes into your shop and, oh, do you got that Pappy 15? Oh, do you got the Blantons? Oh, do you got this? Oh, do you got that? How do you deal with these guys? I mean, do you like, oh, pump your brakes, son? Slow it down a little bit. Look, you want to work up to these. You're going from Jack Daniels to Pappy 23 and William LaRue Weller to, whatever. How do you bring those people back to say, you might want to look at this, and work your way up? What's your approach with somebody like that? Because I find I see them all the time in here, and it's amusing to a point, but it's like, man, you missed a ton. You missed a ton by jumping the shark there, buddy. What do you guys do as store owners?
So I think, I think it's tough from a business standpoint to tell your customer, the person that pays your bills, that you can't get them something. That's my hardest job, right? My hardest job is you ask me for a Blanton's and it's like, I don't have it. You don't want to tell the consumer that. But that being said, there's some things you just can't always have. So I think the idea is you try and build that relationship with the consumer, and you try and build them up, right? You try and show them some great value brands. I mean, Chad, you talk about it all the time. Early Times Bottled and Bond, even though it's not in Maryland. I mean, that's a great up and coming bourbon. Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. You look at Old Forester Rye. I can't tell you how many people. It's just such a great rye. And things like Buffalo Trace, things that you can get a little bit more regularly or readily available. You say, hey, here's a Buffalo Trace. This is mash bill 1. You kind of try and teach them about, the different grains and the different mash bills, and says, hey, try this Buffalo Trace. If you like this mash bill 1, this is a little bit lower rye content. You might also enjoy some of the Heaven Hill stuff. That's a lower rye content. If you do like a Blanton's or a mash bill 2, it's a little higher rye content. Maybe you're like Four Roses Single Barrel. So you kind of just try and work their way up and see kind of where they're at, and feel them out to kind of see where their palate might be. And I really think right now that the value is basically in store picks. I just really think that you can get some great bottles of store picks, and you don't thank you and you don't have to you can get them, most of them, as long as it's not a short barrel. But no, that's about, I would say, learn about that customer, instead of maybe just writing them off and just saying, hey, you can't get Blanton's. You say, hey, well, let's maybe try this. And, maybe 4 months, 5 months down the road, if I can, if I come across one, I'll hold it for you. Because some of those customers you see once and you never see again. Yeah.
George?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great point, Justin. So I love to kind of redirect them and explain that we have plenty of good stuff that you can get day in and day out on the shelf. Have you tried this yet? Have you tried this yet? You're gonna love this. Give it a go. And just like Justin say, just keep bothering me about the Blantons. It comes in here and there. Eventually, I'll get you one. It's a balancing act. You want to take care of your customers, but we can't because we don't have all the products that they want. And that's almost kind of what makes bourbon hunting fun as well. Is if it was all just out there, it wouldn't be as exciting when you score that nice bottle. So it's just a matter of balancing and kind of explaining how things work to the newer customer.
Awesome. So, like I say, I got a lot of stuff. Like I got people throwing questions online right now. It's like some of these are doozies. Jeff Hawkins, you both know him.
We know Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, hell of a good guy. He asks, can you guys easily identify someone who's only out there hunting unicorns to flip?
It's a great question, Jeff, and I wish it was easier. Put it that way. I wish. Yeah, man, it's a tough one, because most of if they are kind of seasoned flippers per se, they know what to ask for. They know kind of the different, things to ask, or and you never want to assume somebody's going to flip, right? You never want to assume that. You always want to assume that they're going to drink it, right? Chad, you always say if you're going to flip them up. So you always want to assume they're going to drink them and share them. It's, I always say it's no fun to just drink a bottle, share it with friends, share it with family. Jeff, I wish I had a better answer for you, but it's not easy. And I wish there was an easier way. But I will say that if I end up finding out that somebody does flip a bottle that was a thank you bottle or a unicorn bottle, where I have other people waiting in line that want to drink it, I won't sell them anymore. They'll be knocked off my list.
So to that point, Justin, Bill Vernell actually asked a question. It's great. It would be great to hear how you dole out the allocated bottles. Do you keep a list of regulars or keep it in your head? Like, is there a little special black book behind the register where if you see somebody's name, you're like, oh yeah, you?
So I do have a list. I mean, I have ongoing lists for all the barrel picks, for people that support the barrel picks. And also with me, it's very hard because the idea is to grow the business, right? But you also have these long-term customers that have been supporting you for a long time. And we don't get enough bottles to go around. So what I really try and do, Bill, that's a great question, because I always fight myself every year. It's one of the hardest times a year, is if somebody was on my list and they didn't get something last year, I make it a point to get them something this year. I spread it out as much as I can. And again, what I do is, for instance, everybody knows the Weller drop just hit in Maryland. What I do is I hold it back till November time. So the people that might not get BTAC or might not get Pappy, maybe they will get a Foolproof or a CYPB or a Four Roses limited edition. You want to thank everybody. The hardest thing in this business for me is telling somebody you don't have a bottle for them. That is by far the hardest thing. I don't like dealing. I don't like telling them no. I don't like dealing with it. I use a couple different methods. I do keep track of people, how often they come in, and a little bit of what people spend. But the problem there is, for me, is the guy that's been coming in your store for 20 years, right? Maybe he doesn't spend as much as a guy that's just been coming in there for a year. People throw money around all the time at us. So do you take this long-term customer and you say, oh, since you didn't spend enough money, you're not going to get somebody that's been in the bourbon for a long, long time, that loves bourbon, that drinks it. George says it the best. There is not a right way to go about it. I kind of do, I try and take a little bit of each. but there literally is not a right way to go about it. So I kind of use a little bit of everything. And then the other thing too is Chad and I talk about it. I have great long-term customers that also send a lot of business my way. And I always fight with myself. It's like, this guy just sent all these people. Now these guys are spending more than him. So do you give those allocated bottles to the people they sent? Like, it really is tough, but all I can say is I try my hardest and I try and spread it out the most I can. And that's really what I try and do. I try and spread it out the most I can. I try and get everybody something. But the list keeps getting bigger and bigger, which is a good thing. And we appreciate it. And we hope down the road our allocations are going to keep growing and growing. And going back to my point about barrel picks, this comes in when George ends up getting a Weller pick, or when I end up getting a Blanton's pick. Those are the times when you can take care of everybody and you say, hey, here's an awesome pick. I didn't get a lot of it, but I can still take care of everybody.
Nice. And
So-
George, what about you?
Like Justin says, I don't think there's a right way. I don't. Some stores jack the price up. Some stores, try to dole it out. I have what I think is the best way for me. It's a rewards program. So essentially, at the end of the year, I can dial in my bourbon customers. So what I do, I find my bourbon customers. It's pretty easy to do that. You see a lot of different bourbons, whiskeys, different things. And then I basically get them on a list, and then I pull their whole book of business, including beer and wine and basically everything else in the store. And essentially, I have a list. And do I like flippers? It's part of it's part of bourbon right now. So even if to me, if a known flipper is in that list, I'm going to get him a bottle. So I do it the fairest way possible. I'm like, you're my number one guy, you get my number one pick. You're my number two guy, you get my number two pick. And I love doing it that way because there's so many customers in the shadows that don't play the game, that don't come to me with samples, that don't, just give me a lot of FaceTime and conversation, which I love. But there's people that come in that every time I do this, every November, there's a few names. I'm like, who the heck is this? And he's my number 4, my number 5 customer for the year. So I essentially try to mirror exactly what the distributors do and do it myself. Of course, there's a wiggle room and some fudge factors. If somebody helped me out with my club, or somebody did something else, or something went above and beyond, then I kind of try to factor that in the best I can. But I love being able to say, this is where you're going to pick, and this is why you're going to pick at this location. This is very methodical. It's very scientific, and that's kind of my background. I'm a pharmacist. I'm heavy in the science and math and chemistry, of course, and I like there to be a concrete reason for everything. Is my way the right way for everyone? No. Different stores do it different. Like I said, some stores will jack the price up. It's either because they just want the profit, or they don't know who their good customers are, or don't even want to fool with it. So
Right.
it's different for everyone.
So to go a little further on this, I mean, you're both right. There is no right way.
Mm-mm.
There's only what's right for you.
Yeah.
And I know how both of you guys do your list, and I think it's fantastic how you both approach it. So to go back to the small guy, not Daddy Warbucks who's coming in and dropping a dime every time he's in your shop, buying shit that he really gives a shit less just to get on the top of your list, or so he could look really good in front of you, Justin. So the average customer coming in buying a $10 bottle of wine, a couple 6-packs or a case of beer, a bottle of bourbon maybe once a week, once every other week, or even dropping $250, $300 on one of your awesome store picks. But he doesn't really come in. He comes in once or twice a month. But he's very loyal to your shop. very loyal to your shop. He knows you. Justin, how you doing? George, how you doing? Hey, nice to see you. Hey, do you happen to have this today? All right, good stuff. What do you do with that guy? He's not going to be your most regular. He's not going to bring you samples in, but he's a loyal every couple week customer. You know, stocks up, comes back, stocks up again.
For me, I think those are the customers that make your business go round and round, because those are the guys that, you know, maybe they don't live super close, but they tell people about your business, and they say, hey, you know, Joe Schmo sent me in, and, you know, hey, you know, next week you get another guy, hey, Joe Schmo sent me in. Again, I think, you know, there's not a right and wrong way to go about it, but those guys are on the list just like everybody else. And, you know, what I do is again, you know, my top spenders don't always get the top bottles. And that's pretty evident across the board for the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years that I've been doing this. Because I start with, so the way like the distributor does it is they go by long-term loyalty. So I kind of start with, you know, how long have you been shopping here? And then I go to, you know, I would rather see you twice a month than once a year. If somebody comes in and drops 30 grand once a year or 40 grand once a year, it really doesn't do. I mean, it is a good big spend. But I still think that the guy that comes in once a week or twice a month, those are the guys that you see, you know, you recognize, you know, they're on the list because you recognize it. The guy that comes in and just drops that money the one time, it's going to be harder to recognize that guy. You know, it's those guys are on the list just as well as anybody. And again, you know, the guy that got William LaRue Weller last year won't get it this year. It'll go to somebody else. And the guy that got it, you know, 2 years ago won't get it next year. You know, I think the best way is to try and spread it out, because I think everybody respects getting different bottles. I think if you're a true drinker and enthusiast, you know, getting different bottles, it goes a long way, you know, instead of just always getting the 23 year, you know, but again, you know, it's tough, Chad. It's there isn't a right or a wrong way to go about it, but it's tough.
George?
Yeah, well, one thing I love to do is open bottles up, and
Yes,
you know, and I open them all up. You know, we just opened up the H. Taylor 18-year marriage. You
I'm
know,
stopping down, by the way.
I got a little bit left. You know, and Justin actually I think opened his too. So
Right.
it's a great way of like you said, that guy that comes in twice a month that's never going to be on tops of my list, to try it. You know, and you can let 40, 50 people try it instead of just selling it to that one guy, you know? Yeah. So I love popping the bottles open, giving everybody a chance to taste it and the opportunity to see, you know, what either all the hype's about or how good something really is, or, you know, if it's a bust. But it's great to open them up, share, talk about them. And you don't not have to be one of my top customers to do that.
Drug City has, hands down, probably the best tasting room in the entire state of Maryland.
It's unfair.
Don't get Justin started.
Justin, I apologize. I mean, you have a beautiful
room,
store, and your selection is hands down one of the best. But George's tasting room kind of kicks ass.
It does. I agree. Trust me, I'm there half the time.
I'll be down there tomorrow, George. Coming in.
Hey, call me if you do. I'll be down. I'll meet you down there.
No, I have so much going on tomorrow. So going back to becoming a good customer, you know, I mean, we talked on, of course, walking in, do you have any of that Pappy? Ha, ha, ha. To, you know, the frequency, to you have a list, and it's a rewards program, kind of like a Total Wine and your distribution centers and some ABC stores. Justin has more of a face recognition. He does have a handwritten list, but you're regular, you come in often. Once again, there's no wrong or right way. I mean, hell, people do lotteries, and at the lotteries, you get people paying homeless people to stand in line for them, get a ticket. I mean, how absurd is that? It's just fucking booze, but they make that bottle, and that person is probably going to go flip that shit. But as far as like, I'm becoming regular in your store, both kind of touched upon it briefly. I come in your store, I come bearing gifts of sample bottles, or I bring a really cool old bottle that I somehow found. How does that stand out to you?
I think it's nice, and I think it's wonderful, and I think it's encouraged. It's great to sit down with someone, get to know them a little better. I'm honored that they brought me a nice bottle, to try, and typically there's more than a few people there, and it's a wonderful, it's a connection, and but it's not, like I said, that gets you the FaceTime. I wouldn't give somebody a special bottle just because they did that for me, but I like to open something up nice for them as well, or let them try something nice. And there's no bones about it. I know that they're going around and doing this to other stores as well. You have to have a very open relationship with a lot of these bourbon customers, because there's no doubt, they're making the rounds, and I'm not naive, but it's still nice that they take the time to come and talk and offer you something, because you can actually see that they do all open some of these nice bottles, which I think is like I said, it's just, it lets you at least view them in a good light, put it that way.
Yeah. You're right about making the rounds. I remember years ago when I was like kind of really, I don't want to say really excited, because I am still excited about it. But when I was learning the ropes, so to speak, 10 years ago, whatever, my God, I would drive all over the place.
Of course.
I mean, I would put mileage on. I mean, fucking fill up in the morning, fill up in the afternoon, fill up in the evening. Holy shit, I dropped $1.5 grand, this, that, and the other. I'm glad I'm way beyond that. I stop at, I have like 3 or 4 regular stores that I kind of deal with. And quite frankly, I don't like dealing with the couple of them, because they're not Justin or George. And I live in a control state, so I know what I'm going to pay for a basic bitch 4 Roses or whatever. So let's talk about store picks. And I know you two wild and crazy son of bitches do some crazy good store picks. Right now I'm drinking on Justin's 4 Roses knockout, and
George
so
picked that with us.
Did you pick that? Nice. I'm not the biggest 4 Roses fan, but I shared a couple pours, but that son of a bitch is half gone.
It's ridiculous.
It's
such a good
stupid pick. But like your Elijah Craig barrel pick, and the one with the I want to whip your ass wax on it.
The Deets, yes.
The Deets. Oh my God, that was just amazing. But you also do collaborations together. And we also have some talks, and unfortunately things didn't work out with one barrel.
Can you believe that?
Yes. It's kind of like
we risked our lives. We really did. That ride
we
there
did.
was just...
We did. It was horrendous. The drive home was even worse. Full bellies, full whiskey and food, and God, it was horrible. But I was driving my daughter's car that day, and the next day she ends up flipping and trashing the car. It was horrible. But anyway, I know you guys got a lot of store picks coming out, and you both work together and you share some picks. And how do you guys work your I don't want to say allocation, but who gets this pick? I know, Justin, you had sent the mass text out on this bottle, and typically I would say, hey, go ahead and give it to somebody else, but I wanted to be greedy this time. I think that was the first time I told you, no, I'm taking this son of a bitch. It's mine.
So good.
It really is. But barrels are limited. Like this 4 Roses, it was what, 108 bottles?
Yeah, 102 bottles.
102 bottles. Most barrels, you're getting 140 to maybe 160, depending on the age. Some of them are less. There's a lot of whiskey hounds out there. There's a lot of whiskey hounds. How do you determine who gets it? And would you sell to a flipper?
Do you mean as far as customer goes, or do you mean between George and I?
No, as customers.
Gotcha. So I have kind of how I do allocation time. I have lists of old barrel picks all the way back to my original first barrel pick that we ever did. And I have a list of all the customers that ended up buying one. So for instance, with this Four Roses one, what I did was I went all the way back to the first initial pick that we ever did and went to the second and the third and the fourth. And people that supported us through every pick were guaranteed a bottle of that if they wanted it. And I think that just goes back to, those guys are supporting you through all those picks. Now, after that, I basically kind of, I look in the computer, see who's been kind of coming in a little bit. And then also, again, not a right way, not a wrong way to do it, but you know the people. I know the people that are coming to the store. I do. I'm there every day. I'm there, 6-7 days a week. You know the guys that are coming in and supporting you. But again, one of my rules is if I see you flipping a barrel pick of ours online, chances are I'm probably not going to offer one to you the next time. It's just the way, it's just the way it is.
I don't blame you. I know the WBSE picks. If we see somebody flip one, they'll be removed from our barrel pick program.
So many people want to drink them.
Right.
So many people.
It's such a limited quantity of a one-off.
Would you guys agree that the store picks out there are pretty much? I mean, it's like this. I have an Elijah Craig, just a 94 proof store pick from Total Wine, and a Jefferson as well. Just their base wine, and I find them so much better than just your basic Elijah Craig or basic Jefferson small. Would you recommend to store owners, as a beginning bourbon enthusiast, to really look for that as, for some wonderful to experience outside of a normal industrialized, small batch? So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can get a product that's just so much superior to the regular offering within a barrel, and that's why I love barrel picks, and that's what we look for. So Justin will tell you, we turn down picks if it's just the same. What's the point, or if it's worse, so we're looking for something that's typically on profile with what the regular offering is, but just superior. And you really can find a lot of value and so many special products like that the Four Roses that Justin just did. It's just unbelievable, whereas if you just went and picked up a single barrel Four Roses off the shelf, you can't even compare. Sometimes it's just such a world of difference.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Justin.
No, it's like I said kind of earlier, I just think there's such great value in store picks when everybody's looking for these unicorn bottles. I think Four Roses has the best barrel program out there. I'm a huge Four Roses fan. I have been from the very beginning. I like high rye bourbon. They have the higher rye. They have the B mash bill. It's a higher rye mash bill. Even their E mash bill is a 20% rye. But no, going back a little bit though to how you determine who gets it. It's so tough because you have people that if they do flip the bottle, technically that there's PR in that, right? Some guy might be flipping your bottle to somebody in California and they say, oh my God, Allview Liquors, where the hell is that? So there is PR in that and marketing in that. But the problem is that I always fight myself with is I have so many good, loyal customers. They might want to get 2 or 3 bottles to just give to a good friend to open. And I would rather give somebody 2 or 3 bottles if they're going to gift one to a friend so they can open, rather than if I know somebody's going to sell it for triple or quadruple what I sold it to them for, or even just share it. I know tons of people that, yeah, I mean, you guys all do it. Look at George. I mean, I think George opened 2 of the Four Roses picks already and shared it with, you know, his whole group. So it's, you know, it's so tough because you have, I have this big loyal consumer base that they want them to drink and they want them to give away and stuff like that. And then you do have another group of people, and I'm friends with a lot of them, and we just agree to disagree. But it's just, you know, again, just like allocation time, there's not a right way and a wrong way to go about it.
So flipping, what do you guys feel about stores who sell at full secondary or above? I mean, I've went into stores where I've seen Old Weller Antique for $3.99, $4.99, or Christ, they had one store down in South Baltimore had a Blantz for $2.99.
Oh Lord.
And I walk in these stores. I almost want to go live on WBSC and just kind of poke fun at them, but you know, it's a free market in Maryland. Like up here in PA, a bottle is going to be what it's going to be. Allocated stuff is going to be on a lottery system. I don't really agree with the lottery system, but hey, I live in a big ass state. You know, I've never won something on the lottery system either. But that being that, I see these stores down in Lake Maryland and other areas that's not controlled state. And when I see these stores selling at secondary, even though it's irritating as fuck, pardon my language, it's irritating seeing that. I almost rather the store sell it at secondary than Joe Schmo getting it away from me because I missed it from you. You sold it to him for $150 and now he's selling it for $2,000 in the parking lot of your store. How do you guys, I mean, what do you guys say or do and feel about that? It's a kind of like, you know, the glue trap in the corner of your garage, you know.
Yeah, I think it's important to align, and I tell customers to align yourself with the type of, essentially the type of bourbon customer that you are. So what I mean by that is you said the PA website. So that's a prime example of a vendor just throwing out basically allocated product out there, and you know whoever's there Wednesday at 1 o'clock or whenever can grab it. You know, so they don't care if you're a good customer or not. They're just throwing it out there. Total Wine does that a lot too.
Oh yeah.
You know, so it's essentially luck of the draw. And then you have people that they're in the middle. You know, they get allocated product. They're trying to get it to their regular customers, but they're bumping the price up a bit. Then you have essentially the gougers, you know, that are gouging and charging secondary pricing. But if you have a bourbon customer that doesn't want to play the, you know, doesn't want to be a good customer and he just loves this one product, maybe it makes sense. Somebody's going to buy it. It is my mindset, and let them. You can complain all you want about it, but somebody's buying that crap for them to be selling it at that price.
Like I'm in Florida. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then you have your thank you bottles, like Justin and I play. So what I always tell customers is, look, if you only want those unicorns, don't shop with me. What's the point? It doesn't make any sense. You're not going to get any from me. You know, just go to a place that's going to sit there and sell you your Blantons for $200 a piece, and you're good and they're good and everybody's good. But you know, if you want to try different products and things like that, you end up with maybe something you didn't even think was possible. So there's different levels, and you kind of have to align yourself with the type of store that kind of meets the needs that you're and the products that you're seeking.
And that's
Very
the problem
well said.
in Florida, where I'm at, you know, which is totally different from Maryland or a state controlled, you know, like Pennsylvania. You know, it's basically sort of like, George, how you're describing your, you know, kind of mathematical mind. Total Wines and ABC, they do their key system at ABC, I think it is, and then at Total Wine, it's this grain reserve, kind of tracking your spending habits. That's how you determine whether or not you get BTAC or PAPI, once a year. Justin, it's more of your, social interaction and developing that relationship that, may matter more. But it's really, I think it's fascinating that, sometimes Total Wine, I think, and ABC, maybe could learn something from a small store owner and developing a personal relationship, because I know I've done that with my Total Wine managers over the years. I go in there and I try to interact with them, and maybe I'll get a EHT single barrel that they got in their wine case or whatever, that they're just holding back there. So I think there's something to be said for both systems, definitely.
Yeah, and there's no right or no wrong. And the thing is that what Justin and I do takes a lot of time. And it takes a lot of, just basically decision making. And a lot of stores don't want to even have to deal with that. There's so many other things going on when you're running a business that screw that. Let's just mark it up. Somebody's going to buy it, and that's that. So again, and that's what works for them. But it's just it's like I said, I'm pretty tolerant, and I kind of see everyone's point of view, but at the end of the day, you have to do what you feel is what makes the most sense for you and your business.
Absolutely.
Question for you guys: how do you feel about? And I've never been to your stores. I'm in North Carolina. I'm a state-controlled state. I can't really do anything about that right now. But stores that maybe offer something that might be a little harder to get, but you also you can buy it, but you have to buy this too. Like they're probably in the same family, Sazerac or what have you. If you really want a bottle of Taylor or Eagle Rare, you have to buy a bottle of Blanton's.
There was a store down in Baltimore recently, I think last year sometime. You could buy a bottle of Old Weller Antique, but you also had to buy some sort of bullshit tequila.
Yeah, a lot of stores do that, and that was I think Midway did that with the tequila and the Weller, and a lot of stores do that. And again, it's their thing, but I could never do that. I don't think Justin would either. I don't want to force anybody to buy anything they don't want.
Right.
I think it ultimately. I think I touched on it a little bit. I think it ultimately goes back to the distributor, how I was kind of explaining it, how I don't want to be forced buying a bunch of bull crap to try and push it on the customer, right? So how do you grow, right? How do you increase your Sazerac numbers without kind of playing that game? And I think it's really, you just got to pay attention to what works. I mean, George is very systematic. I mean, George knows to the T how many cases, how many bottles of something he has sold, based on his inventory system. So he knows if something works and if it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, he's probably going to get rid of it. And he's probably going to bring in something else Sazerac, because he knows that's going to benefit him in the bourbon game, which ultimately benefits him overall. So I really think that I definitely would not ever like to do that. I never want to push anything on a consumer if they don't want to buy it. I mean, you see it all the time. I mean, you even see it with allocated stuff. And, the other day I saw like a Willet pair where, they were selling a super sought after Willet single barrel bourbon. And then they had a rye, which is sought after, but not as sought after. And it was like a pair. It's
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, it's like Chad. Didn't you had a purple top Willet that wasn't that impressive to you, I think, recently?
No, it was called Victory Parade. I don't even know what it retailed for, like $250, somewhere in that neighborhood. I literally took just a smidge out of it, and I ended up giving it to a friend.
That's a highly sought after bottle.
Well, sometimes those highly sought after bottles kind of really suck. Not everything's a winner, Jim. Not everything's a winner.
No.
And that's the beautiful thing of bourbon. And once you get to a certain point in your journey, and once again, we're talking about new guys, and eventually they'll be to where most of us are out. I've had enough. I mean, my God, Justin offered me something last year on allocated. And I told him, Justin, just give it to somebody else. I don't need it. I believe George tried to do the same, and let somebody else get it. I've had them. It's like the purples, the Willow Family Estate purple foil. We call them purples on the internet. Some of them just suck. So I could have left that bottle in my house and I would just collected dust until people came over. But a friend of mine, he came over to drop something off to me, and I gave it to him, and he was like, well, what do you want for it? I'm like, well, nothing. He was like, dude, that's a big fucking bottle. I'm like, just take it home with you, man. Enjoy it.
Just drink it. Enjoy it.
Drink it, because I know you will. I knew you will. And
Stuff like that, Chad, stuff like that for me, when you say somebody comes in and turns down an allocated bottle that they could flip, that goes a long way with me, and I think it goes a long way with George too. You offer somebody this, kind of thank you bottle, and they say, you know what, I have enough of them. I would rather just, offer me something down the road, because what they could do is just take it and flip it. And there's a lot to be said about that. And there's a lot, I think, that I've learned over the years. It's like, why wouldn't they take the Elmer T. Lee, right? Why wouldn't they take an E.H. Taylor single barrel? Why'd they turn that down in the very beginning? I had people that would turn it down, and then I would be like, okay, like I have people that would all day long rather have OWA over Weller 12 year, all day long.
I would.
Right? So where if you offer somebody a Weller 12 year and they say, you know what, I'm not really a big fan. I'd rather, get another OWA when you get them, or if you do get a foolproof down the road, I'd rather take that. I know, that guy is for real and he's flipping them up. You know that for a fact.
I think you could tell the people who are truly enjoying the bottles versus those who are really just trying to bullshit you. And I think a newer bourbon buyer, a greenhorn, however you want to call it, we need an internet name for the new bourbon whiskey drinker, hunter. We need like greenhorn is like somebody's doing this shit. We need a name. Come on, at WBSC, give us a name.
I don't think there is a name.
We need a name, and it's not going to be tater, because that's the most overused word in fucking bourbon. But you're right, Justin. I mean, I've turned down countless bottles. Why am I going to take an Elmer T. Lee, for example? I don't drink it. I'm going to give it away to somebody. I mean, I could sell a $40 bottle and make $60. That's going to make a big difference in my life. Whoa. And I think people fail to realize that, I was talking, God, who was I talking to last night about it? Oh, it was actually on a Zoom conference. We were talking about E.H. Taylor, the 18-year-old marriage. If I had the opportunity to buy it, I'd buy it without a doubt. I haven't even looked for it. I was surprised to find out it released in Maryland, like 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's so freaking
exactly
rare.
2 weeks ago.
Right.
The 70 bottles came into the state, I think.
Right. So 70 bottles came into the state. I had my ear to the ground, and I knew it was coming, and I cared that much about going out finding a bottle. I probably would have got a bottle, and I'd give a shit less about it. I'll probably try it at George's or Justin's at some point, which would be cool. But I see these people, and you instantly see it on the parking lot, them taking that bottle and taking the picture, and next thing you know, it's on whatever site. I mean, fuck, at least get in your car and take a crotch shot with it. You know, so you made $1,800 profit like that. Cool. I mean, is that $1,800? What is that $1,800 going to do for you? Is it going to change you and your family's life for all the better and make everything, rainbows and lollipops? No, it's not. It's a fucking short fix for a fucking long-term problem. So why go through all that? I mean, because it's not going to do nothing in pretty much anybody's life. I'd rather sit here out back by the fire pit and drink it with all four of you. I'd rather chug that whole fucking bottle in one sitting.
That's right.
With some friends. And that's the one message I always try to give a new guy, a newer person, a greenhorn, a brownhorn, or
Sarah has a word, white dogs.
No, not ready for that yet.
Oh my goodness.
Smack the white dog. Nice try, Sarah. But
yeah. I agree completely with what you're saying, Chad. But it again, everyone's got their way. But that's why I question why the stores mark things up on secondary, because in the scheme of things, as few bottles as we get, what does that $1,800 extra get you besides bad press?
Oh, it gets an extremely bad press. It's not going to change, as Justin was just saying, it's not going to change your bottom line. It's not going to make your...
Not one bit. No. It's a drop.
If it does, let me tell you, if it does change your bottom line, your business sucks.
Your business really sucks.
100%.
I remember going into a store a couple years ago. I'm taking pictures of the prices, making fun of them and all that shit. I eventually got banned from the store because, I couldn't stop. I was having a field day. Oh my God. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, all you sell is, you sell a ton of Busch Light, Fireball, Jack Daniels, and some cheap ass vodka. That's all you're selling here. But you got these bottles over here. You're selling a ton of this, and you're worrying about getting that extra fucking penny. Man, you're a fucking shithole. And I'm glad he kicked me out of the store, because if I knocked a bottle or 10 down, I wouldn't have been upset at the least. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy whiskey world. And for people that are starting out, they yet know what they're getting into. Do they?
No. The scariest thing when I started, I got into this about 4 years ago, really, really seriously. And when I first started going into some of these private stores in Florida, and you go in and they would have their back counter there where they have up at the top all these special bottles, and on those special bottles you see my favorite example is the 30-year Booker's, and the guy wanted $900 for it, I think. 900.
Biggest letdown bottles I ever had in my life.
Yeah, and I looked up online, and I'm like, well, this was whatever it was, $150, $200 retail or whatever it was, and I said, I'll give you $300 for it. Oh no, I can't do. I can do $500 or $700 or something, and I said no. So I looked up just out of curiosity if that bottle was still there 3 years later. It's still there. And now he dropped it $100. It's now $850 or something.
Oh Lord, yes.
The one thing,
and I don't think the stores realize how much bad press they get for stuff like that.
The one thing I do worry about, I don't want to say worry about, but that kind of really gets me a little bit, is there's a store up in Cecil County, right across the river. Johnson something or the other, some shithole. They had Weller Special Reserve for $199, Old Weller Antique for like $399. Yeah, I mean the prices are funny. I mean, way even above secondary. But far as a newer whiskey person, he walks in, he doesn't know anything. I mean, he doesn't know what retail or even this, that, and the other is. And he was like, well, it's fucking pricey. It must be good. And boom, I lay down that money. Now, who do you blame? Do you blame the blind ignorance of the guy who has no clue, who's just getting into the hobby? or do you blame the cocksucker behind the counter?
I don't know.
I mean, that's a tricky question almost. I mean, you
So-
can't blame the guy for getting as much as he can. But on the other hand, Joe Schmo, I have no fucking clue, walks in and sees that.
And
You know
I mean,
what the store owner told me, Chad? He says, I'm going to sell it eventually. So
Yeah.
he didn't care.
so
Didn't care, you know.
So, I mean, there's people out there that they don't want to have to go and find these bottles because they are hard to find, right? And they have unlimited funds to where, they don't care. They just want the bottle, right? And there's people out there that will pay that and drink it. They don't want it to sit it on their mantle. I mean, some people do, but there's tons of people that will pay whatever for some of these bottles. I mean, if I told you some of the offers that we get, I mean, I'm sure George gets them too.
You have
It's-
told me some of the offers
It's
you get.
crazy. I mean,
It's
this year
insane.
alone, I'll share one, which it's the first time that this has actually happened. I get offers all the time from people I've never seen before and I'll never see again. And again, making a quick $500, I'll never see that guy again. It doesn't change my bottom line, doesn't make any sense. And chances are he's probably going to flip it. Or even if he doesn't flip it, like what benefit? It doesn't do any good. But I got an email this year from a guy that I didn't know his name. It was the first time he walked into the store. I wasn't there. He walked in, I think, a little bit later at night. They gave him the business card. He emailed the store, and he said, hey, I know the marriage is coming out. Don't know, how many you might get. Figure you're, get some when, we get one bottle, and he's like, but I'll offer you secondary, just point blank. And this is just one guy.
Right.
So I'm sure this is everywhere. And then I'm sure you have the other side of it too, where people will go to stores and say, hey, I'll give you 800 for that marriage. And then they sell it for 1,000, but that store knows that, but doesn't care because now they're not getting bad press. Number one,
Right.
they're getting $800 for it. People think they still sell it at MSRP and they don't because this guy is just going to flip it. I mean, there's so many different levels that you can see out there. I ultimately think, what are we all in this for? George and I are in this because we like it. I love to talk to people. People know that. And, it's fun, hearing everybody's experiences and where they came from. And even when people come from out of town, it's, you don't just write them off. Granted, they're not going to get, something super special because you're probably not going to see them again. But you always, like to hear their stories. And a lot of people will come in looking for barrel picks and stuff like that. But I ultimately think George nailed it on the head, where a lot of stores either just don't care. George and I do care, and we like it. We enjoy it. I always say for our barrel picks, I try and go down to Kentucky with customers, friends, whoever, as often as I can, or wherever, Vermont, Kentucky, wherever we can go, to do picks because it's fun. You're sharing experience, and where else can you do that? It's a fun job, and you gotta. I know George enjoys what he does, and it makes work very easy on my end. That's for sure. So I thank all the customers and new customers and all the bourbon lovers out there because it makes our job a lot easier, for sure.
Nice. I'll tell you what, we've been going at this for a little over an hour. Can you guys give just a quick synopsis for the budding bourbon blossoming hunting, whatever you want to call it, for a new whiskey hunter, searcher, whatever? George?
For most stores, and again, you don't want to, go into a store that's charging secondary. If you're looking to try to become a good customer and get some of their good bottles, because one of those stores will, you'll buy the products from them, you share samples, but at the end of the day, their good products are going to be secondary. You want to stay away from those stores. Those stores have a place, and like Justin said, the people with unlimited funds, whatever, will buy those bottles. But you want to go to a store that and a few stores that will get to know you, that will take care of you when the time is right. Those stores, when you go to them, you wanna have some FaceTime with the decision makers. You want to share samples if possible. You want to share your needs and your thoughts, and have conversations with them, and really let them get to know you. I think that goes a long way. To be able to form those relationships, and it takes time because everybody's trying to do the same thing. But if you're passionate about it and you love whiskey, I think that comes through to the store owners, and a lot of them can see it. And those are the stores that you want to talk to and be a regular customer and a regular patron of, and everything else just follows.
Justin?
Well said. I'll piggyback off that a little bit, but well said, George. I would say, don't spread yourself too thin, meaning, everybody wants to get a lot of different bottles. You look for the ones that you like to drink and stuff like that. But you don't want to, take 10 stores and spread yourself over those 10 stores, because chances are you're not going to get to know that person, or you're not going to, frequent that store maybe often enough. You might only go in there once every, 3 months or something like that. If you're going to 10 different stores, I would say you pick 2 to 4 stores, and, you feel them out. Like, just like George said, you go in there, and I truly think that the way that George is building his business and the way that my business is growing has a lot to do with these store picks. And I just think ultimately that store picks are where value is. You can get amazing bourbon out of it, better than a lot of the bottles that are impossible to find. And it's I just think, and you're not running around with your head cut off like a chicken looking for them. You're gonna get offered that stuff.
Right.
Barrel picks, like you said, Chad, they're between 100 and 200 bottles. I do something where I have a group. It's called Allview's All-Star Picks. It's on Facebook, where they get first dibs at the barrel picks, right? But they can't buy cases. They can't buy 2 cases. They can buy 1 bottle to start out. And then after that, it'll open up. If they're not already sold out, a lot of times they do sell out already. But if they don't, then they're open up to the public. And we just got a 1792 pick in. Tomorrow it opens up to the public. It's I really think, though, that you can build your relationship and get some really good whiskey with that store and with that store owner by talking about and enjoying their barrel picks. And what's better than enjoying a store pick and buying their store picks, and then at the end of the year you get a thank you bottle of some really cool whiskey. It's I really think that is kind of where my direction is headed and direction is going.
Right. I'll tell you what, like I say, I've known both of you guys for quite some time, and I visit both of your stores. I don't get over to George's as much as I'd like to. My God. And we had some events planned.
Yeah, come by soon.
Definitely, dude. I'm literally 15 minutes from your place, and it's just going through the tunnel, all that.
I get it.
Can you guys throw out your areas and your store names just for the general public in here?
Yeah, so I'm George Fortis, of course, at Drug City Pharmacy. we're in Dundalk. It's East Baltimore. And honestly, yeah, if you ever come by or ever in the area, either look for me or Mike J. And if we have the time, like I said, we treat our regular customers just like we do our new customers. And if we have the time, we'll take you up to our room. We have, geez, I'd say about 200 bottles open right now, and we sample them all, and we just have a good time. We enjoy whiskey. We love it. Like Justin said, we really do enjoy what we're doing. This is fun. As stressful as it is sometimes, and as hard as it is to make these decisions, it's enjoyable. And I think from the flip side, that's what makes it enjoyable for the customers as well. If it was all on the shelves, we wouldn't even be here right now. So it's a lot of fun. If you're in the area, stop on by.
My name is Justin Jarvis. I'm the owner of Allview Liquors in Ellicott City, Maryland. Kind of piggybacking off George, we always have all our barrel picks open. I just got in 50, little sample bottles with, everything that's going on. We usually, you're more than welcome to come in and sample and stuff, but with COVID and stuff, we don't have as much room. I don't have a speakeasy.
Oh, Lord.
And
Listen, somebody did ask what the password to the speakeasy was. So.
If you got to ask, you don't need to know.
but
No.
Don't even know.
we have sample bottles. I just got a bunch in. I'm happy to pour a sample bottle for you to take home of anything we have open or any of our barrel picks. And we have, we just opened, a couple cool, allocated bottles. We just got the new Ambassador in, the 2020 Ambassador, which is a great MGP 12-year barrel proof that finally came back out. But no, stop by, I'll pour you a sample to take home. And, I definitely don't have problems, talking to people and taking up your time. But
You guys ship to Florida, right?
I wish. No.
It's a lot of
that
fun.
I know a guy who knows
We
a
don't ship
guy.
at all.
It's a lot of fun, but yeah, Ellicott City, Maryland, Allview Liquors would love to, see some new faces. And I really appreciate all the support from Chad, WBSE, and everybody around it. It makes it very enjoyable. And I hope to see everybody soon.
So to close things out, that was from the bottom of my heart. I thank you. There's a lot of information that was put out here today, a lot of knowledge to help a younger person out, even some of us older guys and girls.
Hi.
So, I know Justin and George personally. I've shared drinks with them multiple times. I look forward to getting together with all of us over at Kelly and Ed's at some point here soon. It needs to happen.
Yes.
But Allview Liquors, Drug City, I've been in hundreds upon hundreds of stores. I've talked to so many people over my whiskey hunting career, my obsession with whiskeys, and these guys are just seriously top-notch guys, and they have top-notch stores. If you're ever in the Maryland area, check Allview out, check Drug City out, check them both out for Christ's sake.
That's right.
Don't be stingy. Go to both. Don't be an asshole. Go to both.
What? Usually when people come down to do the circuit, I mean, honestly, they're either coming from Allview or going to Allview.
Oh no, I try to send a lot of people your way.
Yes.
Anytime I see a post, hey, looking for recommendations in the Maryland area.
Yep.
Boom, boom.
George,
I have two others. By the way, I do get all the allocation from these guys. You're all fucked. I get everything. Just joking.
See, that's why I'm friends with you, Chad.
You get nothing. But
Nothing.
anyway, I want to raise my glass to you fellas.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Tasha, Jim, thanks for
Thank
sharing
you.
in with us. Jim,
Cheers, brother.
Justin, George. Have a great fucking night. Cheers, WBSC. Cheers, everybody.
thanks, guys.
Here's all. Thank you. You all have a great weekend.